Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining us today for our webinar on optimizing shift left and shift right with BlazeMeter version 4. We're very excited to launch our latest version, and here today we have our head of product of BlazeMeter, Yigal Karmi, who's going to give us a wonderful overview and demo. Before I hand it over to him, I just want to say a few announcements. The webinar is being recorded, so we'll be providing we'll be sending out an email in the coming days with the recording. You have an option to ask questions throughout the webinar. You should see in your GoToWebinar panel questions tab where you can ask questions. We'll try to get to as many as possible during the webinar session, and we will get back to as many after the webinar as well. And last thing is, at the end there will be a short survey which will pop up, which should take about 10 seconds. If you can, we really appreciate if you can fill that in. It provides us with feedback for webinars, and also gives you the option to suggest topics for future webinars, so we can continue to provide as much value and resources for you guys as possible. So let me hand it over to Yigal now. Thank you everyone. Take it away.
Thank you, Emma. Hi, everyone, again. Thanks for joining today. So we're here to present you the new version of BlazeMeter. We call it version 4. This version presents a new test creation experience, a new GUI, modern look, rich feature sets, much more sleek, less frictions. And under the hood, we have a wild beast. It's called Taurus. If anyone here doesn't know yet Taurus, I urge you to go to gettaurus.org. Check it out. It's a great tool. What Taurus lets you is run your tests through CLI, APIs in BlazeMeter, and in general, run whatever tool you like, currently supporting 25 tools, and get basically the same reports and same results. Very easy to use, very easy DSL, and great tool. Our new version is based on it, so whatever you do in Taurus will be totally synced with what you can run in the cloud. And in addition, it helps us to present you with many more capabilities. The overall idea behind this version was to help you be more agile, support DevOps, and help you to have better collaboration. Mainly, if your teams are using different tools, now they can use the same system, view the reports, run everything in the same place, and even run them in parallel in a multi-test. So let's reflect on BlazeMeter. Why are we doing what we're doing? We started preaching about democratized testing, the idea of not having a center of excellence that does your testing for you, but rather be agile. Each developer creates his own test, run them very near the time he developed the code, and iterate until it's working, shifting left the whole testing experience, and in general, supporting the whole agility of the organization. I'm sure most of you know this circle by now, but being agile means having the requirements, developing the software, then testing it, delivering it to the users, getting feedbacks, and then circle again and again and again, either once a month, 2 weeks, or several times a day. And when you're using this circle and you're iterating a lot, you need to test frequently, fast, and easily. And that's basically what BlazeMeter is all about. Whatever open source tools you're using, you can scale it up in the cloud or use Taurus to run it in the CLI and test fast and easily. If we reflect on the DevOps mindset, the DevOps is all about 3 things: an easy flow with less frictions and delivering small items without any hassle, with no need for any expert to do the job for you, in order to get feedback fast as possible. If in previous times it took us a year to develop something, release it to the market, and then understand we were not where we're supposed to be, now we'll do it in a day or in 2 weeks. We'll find out quickly and fix whatever needs fixing, which means experiment continuously. But experiment continuously doesn't mean just fast and frequent. It also means safely. And in order for that, you need to test. You need to test a lot. You need to test very soon, and you need everyone to be able to do it. So again, the whole idea was to create a version that will help you guys be more agile, more DevOps, and to allow far better collaboration between teams in large or small organizations. So let's see what we're talking about. So the first change you'll see is when you hit the Create Test button. You now have 2 kinds of tests. One is performance test. It's no longer a JMeter test or a Taurus test or whatever you used to have, URL test. It's a performance test. Whatever you want to do in performance area will be behind this button. And you have the multi-test, which allows you to combine various performance tests together. Apart from that, we have API test, GUI functional test, but it's out of the scope of this webinar. So if you remember the previous screen, it looks something like that. Many users, mainly new users, told us that it's quite hard to understand what's going on and where should I go first and what should I do. This new screen is much more streamlined. Just give this test a meaningful name. In this area, you have the script upload. You can drag and drop or just upload your script. Also, you see here that we're validating your file. If you're loading a JMeter script, a Taurus script, or whatever, we'll validate it. If there is any problem, we'll tell you here that you're missing a CSV file, you're missing some dependency, or in general, you have an error on line 32. If it's passed, it means it will run. We will try to identify the executor. In JMeter, it's easy, it's .jmx, but in some Java runners, it might be not that easy. So we'll try to identify and allow you to override it. After you're finished with uploading your file, you can easily configure whatever you want to be the load. Let's say I want 2,000 users. I want them to run 60 minutes. It's a lot of users, so let's have 30 minutes ramp up. And something new in BlazeMeter is the ramp up steps. We won't just linearly upload your users. We'll do it in steps. So you'll have 200 users in this case, and then we'll stabilize it for 3 minutes, and then go to 400, stabilize it 3 minutes, etc. This will allow you to see how your system reacts to different views and check it out better. If your script has some of this configuration and you don't want to override it, you can simply uncheck it. We will take it from the script. This script has 50, so we run 50. And then you can define how many engines you would like to see in the test. Each of them will have whatever you have in the script. So let's get back to the example. Okay. One big change we have in this version is supporting multi-geolocations. So you can easily change the geolocation. I don't want it to run from Virginia, but rather from Canada. But I also want to have 3 locations. Simply add locations as many as you want. We'll try to automatically decide what the percentage of the traffic. If you want to do anything, we'll simply evenly divide it between the locations. But once you've changed something, when you enter a new location, we'll simply add it up so it will come up to 100%. So you can run the test, and again, easily you can decide, I want this one to come from Google, etc. Underneath it, you can define failure criteria. Failure criteria is the way for us to help you understand fast if something went wrong. Let's say I want the failure criteria if the average response time of the whole test is greater than 3 seconds. You can decide to stop the test, or you can decide just to get warning. We'll see later in the report how it looks. One totally new thing we added here is the end user experience monitoring. JMeter tests are used to hit APIs. Whatever you configured in your JMeter will hit behind the scenes. What it will test how your APIs are working, probably your database, load balancer, etc. But you won't get a real understanding of what is happening to the GUI, to the user experience while this is happening. This is what we added here. We can easily define the URL you'd like us to hit, and we will periodically, throughout the whole test, hit it with a Selenium dedicated machine. Another thing you can see throughout this page is if you enter something you don't really understand, simply press the question mark. It will open the help with the right context. So whatever you're trying to know how to do, very useful, very easy. Below the end user experience, we have the APM integration. You can integrate to whatever APM you're using and see what's happening behind the scenes. You can define JMeter properties, DNS override, network emulation, and all the good stuff we used to have. On the left side is the general information. Project name, the name of the test. If you want to add a description, you can add a description. Here you have what kind of test is it, JMeter, or if I would change it to Gatling, I would say Gatling, etc. Since we have an autosave, it will tell you when it was last saved. You can decide whether you want to get or not an email notification when the test is done. Run the test, of course, and also have a debug run. Debug run will use one engine, 10 views, and up to 5 minutes or 100 iterations. And we basically will not calculate the failure criteria because the whole idea is to let you debug your test, to let you see that the test you're running is working as expected in the cloud and you don't need to configure anything or you didn't upload the wrong test. And instead of doing it live with 2,000 users and 6 total engines, do it for free, fast, and get a more robust logging. Here you have the duplicate test, delete, move, if you want to move it to other projects. And here is the rest of the summary of the test. It will be 2,000 users for 60 minutes, running from 4 locations at these percentiles. So let's just start this test. And while it's running, let's go to the URL test. So if you remember, this is the URL we used to have. You were able to add URLs, put some HTTP headers, and then configure whether it's get or post. Basically hit your URLs. Very simple, kind of a smoke test. What we now have, apart for a very slick animation, is something much, much stronger. What we allow you to do today is create a real strong script. For example, I can put the URL here and then add assertions, add query parameters, headers, even extract something from the response to a variable that I can later use in additional requests. So for example, I know that the body should contain this. Very easy to write, and behind the scenes we'll create a regular expression for you and then assert that this actually exists in the response. And I can add as many requests as I want. And add to this post request the body with the key and the value. If I want, I can give this scenario a meaningful name. I can give a default address so that here I will only need to enter the remaining URL, and I can define a delay between requests. So I won't suffocate my system. And below that, we have all the rest of the configurations we had in the script version. Same thing. Again, end user experience, failure criteria, low distribution, etc. Let's run this as well. In the meantime, okay, so these are the stuff you can do from the GUI. As I mentioned before, we have Taurus. Again, for those of you who haven't yet seen, heard, or used Taurus, go to Get Taurus, download it, play with it. Very, very nice and dev-friendly software. Taurus uses its own DSL, which is very simple and straightforward. Even if you don't know it, you can easily read it. The executor will be Gatling. It will execute this scenario. It's called existing. Concurrency will be 100 VUs with a ramp up of 1 minute. 3 ramp up steps, and the whole time will be 5 minutes. It will run from 2 locations if it's in the cloud, and it will run a Scala script, Gatling script, and when connected to the cloud, it will use my account with my workspace and with a given test name. So this is me running this test locally. I simply write BZT, the test name, it spins up a Taurus, and then start hitting whatever it was configured to hit and gather the data. In a few seconds, we'll start seeing here graphs that represents the test results. Again, very easy, very fast. No need to be an expert on performance testing and understand whatever tools you need. If you have a script, very simple to write it, very simple to run it. But after you've checked it locally and saw that everything is working as planned, simply add here -cloud, and it will spin up machines in the cloud. And in a sec, we'll start the test on BlazeMeter. Once the data we get, we can easily see the data later on. Okay, so last thing before we drill down to the reports is the multi-test. What the multi-test allows you is to combine various tests into one single test that will run synchronously. And here you have the summary. It's like two scenarios. These are the names. It will run from one location, 30 minutes total with 80 VUs total. And this is what your traffic will look like. If you hover on one test, you'll see what is the part of the traffic coming from one test, and the other will show you the other. And in addition, you can override the load configuration. You can say, okay, I want it to run from 2 locations, and I want it to be 200 users because now I'm running a different scenario. And probably the duration, I need this to be 30 minutes with ramp up of 10. Whatever you like. We will run. So let's run this as well. And now let's go to some executions and see the reports. So this is the demo URL I've just configured. As you can see, I have 1% errors. When I press the arrows, I will go to the error log. And here I can try to examine what went wrong. So I did an assertion that count will appear 9 times. Actually, it didn't find it. So either I misconfigured or my site has changed. I now have a valid error, so I can go to my code and try to understand what went wrong. And in the view, I had a bad request. This was intentionally because in order to get a view, you need to have some kind of cookie, and I didn't configure it. If we go to the demo test of the multi-location, here we have 500 virtual users that are divided to 4 locations. Currently, it shows everything, but if I go to a specific location, you can see that the number of views and the whole graph are changing. This allows you to easily slice and dice your results depending on the location you've ran the test. And once the multi-test will start, you will see how you can do the same thing with scenarios. In addition, one thing we've added to this version, before, if you used to run multiple thread groups inside a JMeter test, what we did is once you've override the configuration in the GUI, we'll evenly divide the override across the multiple thread groups. In V4, what we do is divide it proportionally. So the script we had here was 4 thread groups, 10, 20, 30, and 40. In the request stats, what we can see that the hits per second, the number of samples is relatively in the same numbers to 10, 20. It's like 1, 2, 3, and 4. Major improvement. Also, what we can see here is that, this is the test we've started from the CLI. As you can see, it's running, giving meaningful reports, and not just meaningful, but the same reports. So until now, we saw JMeter. This is a Gatling test that I ran from the CLI. I have the same timeline, the same request stats, errors, logs, health engine, etc. I can go drill down to the KPIs in the same manner I do with every test in BlazeMeter. And if we go back to the multi-test, one of the things you can see here is that you not only have the locations, you can also separate the runs regarding the scenarios. So this scenario looks like this. The other scenario will look like this. And here you can also divide per locations. It makes the drilling down much more meaningful and easier. So that was V4 for you. What's next? Go to blazemeter.com, register, it's free. You can play with the tool, run tests, see if you like it. And then if you need anything, we have a huge amount of resources online, either at blazemeter.com/resources or blazemeter.com/blog. Whatever you need to know about testing with open source, go there, read it, use it. That's it. Question time, I guess.
Thanks so much, Yigal. Wonderful demo and presentation. As I said before, there's the question panel in your GoToWebinar panel. So feel free to click on that tab and ask a question. We'll start getting to the questions now and reach out to the ones in the coming days that we haven't gotten to. And the webinar is being recorded, so you'll all also be sent the recording in the coming days as well. And when you exit the webinar, please fill in that 10-second survey. You can it will really appreciate the feedback that you can give us, especially also providing us with topics that you want to hear webinars on, not necessarily just BlazeMeter products, but also just general open source tools, guides as well that could be relevant for our blogs. We want to provide as much value as possible. So I'm just going to open the questions tab now and have a quick look at some of the questions. Okay. All right, I see that there is quite a few questions asking about, to summarize it, about roadmaps and what's coming next. So maybe, Yigal, can you kind of give us a brief picture of what's the product roadmap in the coming 6 months to a year?
Yeah, sure. So this year was all about new infrastructure, new architecture, new test creation experience. The next year will be mostly about reporting. One thing is to allow you to have more information. For example, percentiles in timeline report. Another thing will be, today we have the summary tab. Going forward, it will be a sort of a dashboard where you can decide whatever you want to plot. 5 slowest errors, or most changed labels, or stuff like that. And another thing is that we're working on helping you slice and dice the numbers. So we're trying to understand what happened in the test and highlight the interesting stuff for you. So reporting, and inside reporting, better information and easier work for you guys.
Thanks so much, Yigal. Also, we have a few questions now coming up about reporting. Some also mentioned, were asking before about, is it possible to share the reports? If you do share them, is it secure? Does all of your data get shown? I'll just say that we had a recent webinar actually about our private cloud platform and hybrid performance testing. So definitely check that out as well. But I'll also let Yigal answer some of that those questions as well.
So in private cloud, the data is totally secured, and outside your premise, you wouldn't see any meaningful stuff. But again, if that's what you're interested in, go to that webinar, learn everything you can. In the SaaS platform, we have several ways to share reports. So one, in each workspace, I have various members, and each member has its own permissions. So this is a manager, this is a tester, and this one I can set to be a viewer. Each one of these will be able to go into whatever I have in my workspace, view the reports the same way I do. If I'm a viewer, it will be a view only. If I'm a tester or a manager, I can do whatever I want. In addition, if I have a specific report that I would like to share, I can go here, do a share report, copy the link, and then share it with the outside world. Whoever gets this URL can go into the report, see whatever is in the report, and even filter out the data the same way I did before. The only change is that he cannot access anything in the test. You will not see the logs. You don't see the log tab here. And in the original test configuration, we have the files that we used to create the script, to create the test. In the shareable report, you don't have anything like that. So you can see all the numbers, you can slice, dice, get whatever information you want, but you won't see any meaningful data.
Okay, great. A few people have also asked about, they've been popping up about different open source tools and integration. You mentioned in the webinar JMeter and Gatling. Can you tell us how many open source tools are actually supported? Are you going to support more? If so, which ones?
Yeah, sure. So inside Taurus, in the user manual, you have whatever we currently support. 25 tools today: Gatling, Grinder, Locust, JMeter, Selenium, and smaller one like pbench, Siege, Apache Benchmark, and others. Currently, we don't plan to support anything else, but if you have a tool that you would like us to support, reach out, tell us what it is. We'll consider it and probably add it to the supported executioners.
All right, thank you so much, Yigal. We're wrapping up on time here, so I just want to thank everyone again, and of course thank Yigal for his time today for the webinar. And feel free to, if you haven't already, to create a free account at blazemeter.com and check out our other resources, whether it's the private cloud webinar we just mentioned or anything about open source tools, guides, how to use BlazeMeter at all. That's all you can find at our resources page, at our blog. So check us out. And just a reminder that it is going to be recorded and we'll be sending it out again. And to please answer that 10-second survey. Really appreciate it. We want to do as many webinars that are the most valuable for our users. So please, 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 as much feedback as possible is wonderful. Thank you again to Yigal. Thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.